video today because I'm going to show you how I style my fireplace mantle in the kitchen in a number of different ways. So this is what it looks like bare. Now a little bit of history. When we moved into this house, we did not have a fireplace here. Basically, the kitchen on this wall stopped about right here, but we bumped it out, we put in some French doors, and we installed this wood-burning fireplace. It does have a gas jet, and as I've said many times, it was some of the best money we have ever spent, because this tiny little area off of my kitchen is probably the coziest part of the house, and where it is, I would bet we spend 99% of our time in the winter, and it's just so lovely, and we've made lots of happy memories here. Many secrets were revealed by the hearth, by my boys, and my mother-in-law used to sit in one of these chairs, and she would watch and we would talk as I cooked. So it's a very nostalgic spot for me, and it's really fun for me to decorate seasonally. Now that leads me to my question of the day. If you have a mantle in your home, or if you don't have a fireplace, it might be a mantle by a faux fireplace, it might be a sideboard, but do you have an area in your house like this? And if so, is it a static space or a dynamic space? And by that I mean, once you decorate it, does it stay that way most of the time year round, or do you decorate it seasonally and kind of zhuzh it up differently as time goes by? So for me, this fireplace in the kitchen, I tend to decorate differently quite a bit. I change out the things on it. My one in the living room, which you have seen before, that has my mantle clock and things, it stays relatively static until Christmas. But this one I like to switch around a little bit because we're in here so often. So this is what it looks like when it's bare. This is a limestone cap that we put on a wood fireplace surround that I got at an antique store. We cut off the uprights because according to code, the wood couldn't be too close to the fire. And then we built the hearth and the uprights, the stone uprights around it. Yes, it was very heavy and it was difficult to install, but I just love the way it looks. I love the way it's aged. I love the way it's a little bit chipped. And so for me, this is just the quintessential kind of English style that I love so much. So let's get started. Now these candle holders I typically have on my mantle most of the time. I've had them for years, don't remember where I got them. I added the glass hurricanes a little bit later, and periodically, to keep them crystal clear and pristine, I put them in my dishwasher. As I do, interestingly, all of these plates that I have hanging around. That way, because of, well, really all of the ambient stuff in the air, by virtue of having a fireplace, the soot and any kind of debris, dust in general, I put them in my dishwasher to keep them clean. So these are kind of what I think of as two foundation pieces on my mantle. Now, I've been really obsessed, you guys, with making leaf bouquets, and I made these about 2 weeks ago. I was infatuated by the folds of the leaves themselves and also by this beautiful mahogany color. And I'm going to try to do this with great dexterity. Once they get in place, they're fine, but they're a little bit temperamental as I try to put them in place. So these are just candle holders, and I got these candle holders. They're just they're just like a galvanized metal. I don't even remember where I got them. I've had them for years. I might have gotten them at a thrift store. They're not expensive, but they have been so versatile. So I love these leaf bouquets that I set into, and I'll show you basically how I constructed them here momentarily. And this is what I mean about them being a little bit temperamental. Once I get them in place, they're just fine. But they are a little bit, not real secure in their construction. And another reason that I've got these hurricanes on is obviously this could be a fire hazard if these were too close. And I am never in my kitchen with candles, or if I ever have candles lit in my kitchen, I'm always in my kitchen. I never leave the room with them unattended. So these are just sitting in some votive cup holders that fit, I don't know if Stuart, you can show that fit into the candlestick, okay? I could have maybe used just regular votive candles and just set them. And these leaves are basically, I would show you how I constructed them. I use the word basically too much, so please forgive me. But how I constructed them was I just select them when I'm out walking. Typically they have long stems on them. I just gather them together with a twist tie or a little rubber band, and that's how I compose a leafy bouquet. And then after it's put together, that's when I give them a spritz of just a glossy spray enamel, and that's what gives them a little bit of a sheen. And typically I put a sheen on some of them and not on others of them, so that I've got that nice kind of textural contrast, and I love the way they look. Now I could fuss and mess and zhuzh them even more, and typically I will, but I want to give you kind of the effect. I love the way they punctuate each side of the mantle, and again, I just love that color. I'm really into kind of monochromatic tone on tone color palettes right now. So as an inspiration, and by the way, I also like, just as if they'd been wind blown, I sometimes like to have a leaf just kind of sitting at the base. So then, because I've got this galvanized metal as my muse, I have a galvanized metal platter that I've had for many, many years, and typically in the months where I'm really not decorating, this is kind of the profile without the leafy bouquets that's on my mantle. I typically always have these candles, these candlesticks, and this platter, and then it's a good place for me to have fruit that can come and go. And I very carefully selected and curated the fruits that I wanted to have in this platter based on this color palette. Now, the longevity of the fruit, of course, is not great, because now that it's cool, we burn a fire in the fireplace pretty much nonstop all day when we're home. So when the fruit begins to go soft, when it's no longer beautiful, then that's when I make a pear or an apple crisp. These are Asian pears, and that's just a Bosc pear. So that is my kind of iteration number one, with one more touch, and that is typically I use long fireplace matches. In the winter time, I don't really like the look or the fact that they're plastic, of those plastic lighters. So I use long fireplace matches that I get off of Amazon, and I'll put a link to where I get them. And then I've got this old pewter cup that I got at a thrift store, and what I do is I just tape the strike pad to the bottom. So that way, when I'm getting ready to light the fire, I do this inside at this fireplace, and I also do it at my fireplace outside. I just have a little galvanized metal pitcher there that's got my fireplace matches in it. And I really like the way it looks. I like the fact that it's kind of tone on tone. I'll step back and see if it's symmetrical, and I can of course kind of zhuzh it a little bit as I so choose. So the reason that all of the leaves are brown and in this color is because that's basically how I selected them when I was out foraging. If you wanted a different color palette, then get some vibrant sugar maple leaves, October Glory or Autumn Blaze leaves. You know, really, sugar gum leaves are absolutely a brilliant crimson color, and or you know, a really gorgeous gold would be lovely. So any color palette of leaves that is resonating with you, you can make beautiful leafy bouquets. So that is my look number one. Now let's move on to my look number two. Well, I'm ready for my look number 2, but here's a little commercial beforehand. A lot of you ask what I listen to, what kind of music I listen to downstairs, because it's nice background music for me. And this is the Autumn Jazz station on Pandora. Lately, I've also been listening to Ray Bryant and a wonderful French singer, what's her name? Emily Claire Barlow. If you want to make a station on Pandora for that, I highly, highly recommend it. It's very soothing and beautiful music to me. Another little commercial, if you're not already signed up to my newsletter, I'm finally getting back into writing them regularly again. I kind of took a hiatus when I was working on the book, but they are coming out regularly now, about once a week. Just go to lindavater.com and I share all sorts of musings, what I'm listening to, podcasts, things I'm watching on TV, books that I'm reading, products that I recommend, and a little bit of just conversational chatter. So if you haven't signed up, definitely go to lindavater.com and sign up. And please share it with anybody that you think might like a little dose of happiness and seasonal interest in their day. So here's my second look. Again, look number 2. I am still channeling a tone-on-tone vibe, and this time I am using hydrangeas. So this wonderful picture was a gift to me from my new daughter-in-law, Taylor. She gave it to me as a thank you gift from one of the showers that we held for her. And this is filled with a combination of what I believe are Dear Dolores and Big Daddy hydrangeas. They're part of the Southern Living Plant Collection, and they turn this just wonderful kind of strawberry pomegranate. I just love this color as kind of a fallish hue. And so that's my first big component. Now I've got my fixture candlesticks that I've moved to the other side. I've got them to kind of balance the weight of these 2 flower arrangements. That is filled with those beautiful hydrangeas. And then I noticed a fabulous color echo with the seed heads from the Seven Suns tree that's growing off of my driveway. This tree was a gift to me by my friend Linda Horn a number of years ago, and I just love that beautiful color echo. Very tone on tone. So from a practical standpoint, I am putting back my little galvanized metal pitcher with my Fireplace matches in it with a little sprig of Seven Suns seed heads. Try that, saying that 10 times fast. And then I've got my fixture platter here that I have filled with red bosque pears because I wanted, again, to kind of repeat this hue. Very, very tone on tone. If you didn't want to use red pears, you could use some of those baby boo pumpkins. You could take inspiration from any dried hydrangea heads that you've got in your own garden. And obviously you could make it a lot more colorful if you so chose. I would also maybe try picking up some of this lime green color in these dried hydrangea heads with some Granny Smith apples or some green bosque pears, or you could use dried pomegranates. There's just a number of different ways that you could kind of do that same tone on tone look, or you could just go completely colorful here. You could use whatever kind of foraged shrub cuttings that you've got in your own gardens. You might have bittersweet, who knows what you might have. But this is just another wonderful look if I wanted to change it around. And what I love is this is a look that will go all the way into Thanksgiving because these will dry beautifully, and I think it's just another really elevated but very, very natural garden to mantle look for you above your own fireplace. So this is my look number 2. Let's move on to look number 3. Well, this is a more minimalist or semi-minimalist interpretation of that last look. So instead of having the two pictures on the right-hand side, I put the visual weight on the other side, primarily dictated by the way that this branch, the architecture and the predominant arc of this large branch. That's pretty much what determined which side of the mantle that I wanted to put it on. So instead of just branches of that seven suns, I took kind of a larger branch which had a little bit more of the entirety of the tree effect. And I put it in this kind of urn that's a little bit more rustic looking. I loved the way one of the leaves just very poetically fell right in place, and I'll leave it there. This is basically maybe a copycat version of what you see so often in magazines and in catalogs right now, where the stylist will go out and just clip a really large, dramatic, statement-making branch off of some shrub or tree and put it in a large vessel. Sometimes that vessel is clear. It doesn't really matter depending on what your aesthetic is, but it gives it a little bit more of a clean, minimalist look. You'll notice that I took the pears out. I just have a hint, again, just a little poetic dropping of one of the seed heads, and I've tucked a little version of the same seed head over here, so it kind of harmonizes across the entirety of this horizontal space. Now, one thing that I do at Christmas time that's really fun is I will get wreaths and I will just kind of tuck them around these plates so that it frames either side of the picture that I've got hanging over the mantle. And if you go back and look at one of my, I believe it was a kitchen holiday video we made last year, Stuart, you can see what that looks like, and another kind of interpretation of fruit and foliage, because in that one I believed I used lots of citrus and clementines. So this is a little bit more minimalist for me, take on the seven suns foliage and the same other kind of static components that I used again in the candle holders and the platter. So now let me show you my fourth and final interpretation of my mantle for fall. And here's my fourth and final version, a real deviation from what I had before. This one I think of as a little bit more anthropological, I guess. This is, you may recognize it, this is the vessel that I got thrifting not too long ago, and I think I paid like $3.99 for it. This actually came from Anthropology. I love it. I love the texture of it. I love the fact that it has kind of a Tanzanian vibe to it. I love it. And this metal stand, it's brass, and it was the muse for the metal component of this scape, this still life scape. And this was also a thrift store find. It came with a bowl in it, but it just elevates this container, I think, pretty nicely, which is filled with some beautiful branches that were part of a branch bouquet my husband brought back from me on one of his road trips because he so knew I would love them. And then this is, I love this. Talk about garden to mantle. These are dried cowhorn okra pods that really age to this beautiful, beautiful bony color. I absolutely love that. And then because I had a touch of brass over here, I repeated that on this side with two brass metal candlesticks that I got from a friend of mine. This belonged to my mom, this candle snuffer, and this just I think a glass container adds just a little bit of shine and sparkle here to accentuate the candlelight with a few of those beautiful dried leaves that also match the kind of golden quality of that urn. So there you go. That's my final version. Let me know which one you like the best, and make sure to answer the question of the day. Do you mess around and rearrange your mantle occasionally, or do you leave it in one style, styled in one way most of the time? So there you go. There are 4 different ways to style your own mantelpiece. Well, today's autumnal outfit of the day is here for you. If you're not interested, then move on to the next one. So my coffee mug is really special to me. It's from my friend Jan at Hungry Holler on Instagram. If you don't follow her, you follow her at the Holler. You really surely must, because I love her account. Really witty and whimsical and fun. My earrings are Lucky brand earrings that I got at TJ Maxx. I adore turquoise. It's the Colorado girl in me. I adore turquoise, and I got them there. My shirt is actually thrifted. It was kind of fun this morning because Hubs came down and we both had on flannel shirts, and he thought that was very fun and fallish because it has definitely turned cool here. This one was thrifted. It was actually a little boy shirt because it's marked as an extra large, so it must have been a kid's shirt. I love it. It's one of my favorite flannel shirts, and I got it at a thrift store. My breeches are Eddie Bauer. I also got these at a thrift store. My belt is a wonderful old beaten up leather belt that one of my sons left behind. It's got that kind of gnarly aged Western Ralph Lauren-y look that I really like. My boots are some of my most comfortable shoes that I own. These are Uggs. I got these, I'm not sure, I think I got them online from Uggs.com many years ago, and they're one of my favorite pair of footwear because they're so comfortable. My bracelets, these bracelets. And by the way, a lot of you asked how I store all of my costume jewelry, and in an upcoming episode, I'm going to show you that, and I'm also going to kind of demonstrate how that type of storage relates to gardening storage and that type of thing overall. But this one beaded bracelet is actually one large bracelet that was gifted to me by a friend of mine recently. I helped her. She was struggling a little bit putting up some of her jewelry that she had at a flea market, and I went over and helped her, and so she came to my house later and she gifted me with this fun bracelet, and the turquoise beads I got, I can't remember where, and the bracelets I got, I can't remember where. They are just inexpensive elastic bands, but I really like them because I love layering. And one of the things I love about layering jewelry, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in the next segment, is it's just another form of composition, and it's an inexpensive way to play, I think. So I enjoy that, and it's all about texture and composition. So there you go. If you held on this long, that is my fashion epilogue for today.